Hello guys, so welcome to another beautiful episode of Ying Yang Podcast with me, Stephen Akintayo and Eizu. Okay, so we've started a series on business fundamentals, right? And we started with funding, and today we want to look at marketing, sales, and brand. Okay, but I want to start by saying this wasn't me, right? This is this. So why are you giving free advert to Coca-Cola? Do you know if they pay me? Really? I don't do shit. They cost me.
That's why we're talking about how to sell it. That's selling.
Okay.
I'm just joking.
So, but it makes sense. You can see how Coca-Cola has disrupted our podcast.
Fear event. Fun fact, top 5 biggest brands goes on by branding Coca-Cola. A poll a few years ago actually put number 1 ahead of Jesus. I think right now Formula number 1, I think have 8 times, then Coca-Cola and then probably Jesus. But it explains how powerful brands can be, right? Brands are like human beings, and Nigerians don't understand the power of building a brand. We hustle too much in this country. Yes, everybody's haggling about their sales and marketing, yeah, but building brand itself, like effortlessly. There's no part of the world that Coca-Cola hasn't been. Don't forget how powerful Coca-Cola is. But I was telling someone on this that the modern day Santa Claus, what you call Father Christmas, is literally attributed to Coca-Cola. I can almost say that Coca-Cola invented Christmas. The actual color from Christmas is not red and white. That's in Coca-Cola color. The original color of Christmas actually brown and green.
Brown and green.
Yes. You know, every single year there's a theme around Coca-Cola, right? So there's a Santa Claus theme. Of course, Santa Claus story is a mythical story.
Yes.
God, I think something around the Vikings and the Scandinavian stories. But there's a full history around it. But Coca-Cola took that, almost made the mascot. Coca-Cola's highest sales comes, of course, during Christmas. You know that, right? So it explains how storytelling can powerful. In my own opinion, there's no other brand that have told their story so deeply, so mysteriously. I mean, people still believe that there's a secret formula for Coke.
Yes.
You know how ridiculous that is, right? True. After producing 1 billion bottles, they still have a secret formula only one person knows. 1 billion production are done in different countries. That's how powerful that brand is.
So I without turning this to a Coca-Cola podcast, I visited. So last 2 weeks I was in Atlanta, and the hotel I stayed was actually the former Coca-Cola office for a while. Right, and it's now turned to a hotel. And in fact, in the evening they took us to a tour of how it used to be like years ago, Coca-Cola office, and leave that experience. I had to do it involved in our conversation. I had to do a series around companies that must have won score balls. You tell them to Atlanta, going to do the entire Coca-Cola tour. I watched some of Coca-Cola and felt some years that you'll be. And if you remember, Jesus means to be young. Right.
Okay, so that was not red else.
Yes, it was after that show. You just and I came back. I said, "What you do?" Then realized that a lot of the big brands actually have read that we're asking teaching to read. That was one of the things I realized in that research. But that research taught me
one of the best brands I read, but Manchester is red, so. Manchester is red.
So there are not great brands there.
So how come Manchester is red? Let's talk about great brands.
It's Manchester not he didn't Liverpool young and red as well. Virgin red. On and on.
Absolutely.
But forget the color part of this and remember the power of advertising, because that's what the research for me. And advertising starts with storytelling. And today a lot of people mistake my storytelling to arrogance. But it doesn't matter whether they think I'm arrogant or not. It has worked. that were one of those unique brands that started with just 8,000 Nigerian naira for continents at the 16 years. That's no lips. Right, our projection in the next 5 years is to control $1 billion of assets in America. But part of the CV is to tell a story. Right, I look at small businesses from understanding the place of what is the story, why did you start your career? Right, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's something you are shy of, but you just have to build your gradual confidence to be vulnerable and tell that story. There's a lot of my own story really makes me feel vulnerable. A lot of time people hear it, they don't know act deep. I don't feel comfortable. But I understand for you. Yes, but I understand the need to share the story. That people will connect with it. And it's really how we can ultimately build a great brand at the end of it.
I agree. If you look at the greatest brands that have sold so effortlessly, especially high ticket brands, like say Rolex, Rolls Royce, those are very hard because it's 1% on the 1% on the 1%.
Yes,
I saw a study of Rolls Royce and it was very interesting. Just not less than one paragraph. It was a brand promise. This is what Rolls Royce said. It says that Rolls Royce in V8 most times, V8, V12, not even in V6 most times. Rolls Royce says at 140 kilometers per hour. Do you know how fast that is? And you know how noisy that's supposed to be? It says at 140 kilometers per hour, we promise you that the only thing you would hear is the tick of your Rolex. And you know what's funny about it? Rolex doesn't tick. So that means it can't hear literally anything. But that's excellent story in one paragraph. People have great products. They haven't learned to tell the story so sweet and so smooth. Like I said this in my co-hotel event, that a lot of people sell champagnes so cheaply because to put in a zobo nylon. Right. Put in a zobo nylon. And a lot of zobo sellers as literally selling us zobo for the price of champagne because of the bottle and the packaging. Nigeria is good at this. Right. So imagine if you can put your great products in a great container, and that container talk about its brand, and I'm just talking about aesthetics, talking about stories, spirits, vibe, right? Look at, and it doesn't have to be in product. Nigeria hasn't told the story. Africa hasn't told the story. The day Africa tells the story, I mean, I think it was Chino Achebe also that says, until the lion learns to speak, right? The story always favored the hunter, right? Africa's story has not been told by Africa, right? So until we become deep storytellers, until the CEOs of companies can sell their vision as a story, people can almost feel it. The two biggest religions that Africans die and kill themselves for, imported one from Jewish and the other one from Arabs. The beauty of those stories, the beauty of those religions is also in the story and the depth of them. The depth of them, I mean, we never really see firsthand with empirical evidence, right, of the pattern of the Red Sea, but we believe it so deeply because of how beautiful the story was told. That so many stories all over the place, right? And that's how powerful stories are. So for you to build a great brand, you must be able to do that. Attach that story with something else as well. See how Rolls Royce talked about it and right Rolex with them, right? Because brands rub off from brands. That's the truth. Brand rub off from brands. I mean, look at the G and the H that we're doing now, right? And brand rub off from brands. So building a great brand is the easiest way to actually build marketing and sales. In fact, that are the brand. The lesser the price for marketing.
I agree absolutely, because when you look at Elon Musk and how he tells you he's never did an advert for Tesla. Of course, some people, I think Twitter became the solution to that. But only Twitter, Twitter was introduced to amplify, the adverts. In fact, Elon Musk actually has never done an advert for any of the companies, but just to tell them a good story, created something never done before. All that element has made it such that he doesn't even need to do advert. We all do the advert, we all do the marketing, we all do the shout. You just helped Coca-Cola do advert, started paying you. And again goes back to understanding this, and it's very important. Music is organized noise, but noise nonetheless. Right? And your life and the entire process of how you started your company is noise. But when organized properly, it becomes market, it becomes brand, and then of course end up leading to sell.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to, and the truth is that nobody will sing your song for you. You don't tell your story for. You have to master the art of being shameless about your music. Being ready to play the music over again. I want to add this so that you can get the concept of market. And I've used this many times. And I call it the market. I recommend it, which you guys. The word BUYOLG. And they talked about, same Coca-Cola, right? But if you can read the words, just from your language, right? So Pepsi did a test and realized that Pepsi tastes better than Coca-Cola. The blind taste. Yes, the blind, and they assessed. Yes, something like that. The blind test is, and and they asked, when they did their research, and I said, you know what, we're gonna do a test. We're gonna remove, and that's the only really found out this test. Remove the entire label, just made it blind, right? Put, and label A, put Pepsi and another label, nobody knew just Pepsi, just Coke. And when everybody did a lineup of thousands of people, everybody said A tasted better than B, right? And then Pepsi said, well, A is actually Pepsi. Yeah. However, and Pepsi announced to the world that, you know what? Everybody has accepted we taste better. We're going to be number one. Years later, Pepsi was on number one. So some scientists did research just to worry out. They did the same thing. Put a man to do the test, but place all this ECG or something that is able to read the movement of the brain.
Yeah, to how the neural pathways spark up based on different stuff.
Right. Things there. And I'm talking about neuromarketing here. At the end of the day, they did the same thing. The person said A tasted better. A was Pepsi. They now brought the labeled version of Coke and labeled version of Pepsi, and they tasted the two, and the person said Coke tastes better than Pepsi. But thank God this time around they had a monitor to show what was going on. And what they realized is that as soon as he saw the Coca-Cola logo, right, the emotional part of his brain override the rational part of the brain. In other words, all the Coke advert he had seen when he was a child, all the sheer happiness, all the that emotional aspect override the logical one. And then he said Coke was better. And again, this goes back to the fact that when you tell stories, you are arousing the emotional part of people. And when you tell it over and over again, it's in their subconscious. And that's where neuromarketing comes in. And that's why I keep pushing. I do broadcast often. If you come to my WhatsApp, you're going to get broadcast. And you may hate me for it, you may hate my broadcast, but guess what? I understand that the more I tell you about who I am, the day you think anything about my industry comes up, you say, no, Dr. Stephen is the person to do business. Right? Because I'm the only person that has always said that story to you about the fact that, hey, I'm into real estate. Hey, I'm into investment. Hey, I'm into that. And a lot of entrepreneurs do not shamelessly tell their story, shamelessly sing their song.
Fantastic. Like I love the vibe of my Ying Yang. You bring in the practicality, I bring in the science and the methodology and the algorithm behind the result of that practicality that you have. Yeah, I'm speaking grammar, that's why. But yeah, that's the funny thing we want to, right?
Yeah.
And let's just break it down so we can understand what we have. steps, right? First of all, perception is more powerful than reality. True. Perception is more important than reality. The only thing more important than what you're selling is what you make the buyer believe that is buying. True. Product are created in the factory, but sales are made in the mind. Right? It's a mind game. Yeah. And it's so painful when people create great products and people have lesser products. Because they understand branding and marketing and sales. Yeah. However, when we confuse this word, I take the coca and like branding and marketing. See, branding and marketing, right? Branding and chaos, then we'll put your shit. This shows, and I love the fact that it's gaining traction because she start thinking about advertising. But yes, the conversation about it, right? So advertising, marketing, sales sound alike. I like to put advertising and branding, but yeah, three different things. The problem that we're trying to sell without B and A. So A, B, C, A is advertising, B is marketing, and C is sales. But do we see without B and A? C leads to transaction, B leads to engagement, A is attention. To understand it better, let's do A, B, C. A is attention, B is engagement, C is transaction. Yeah. And they must follow that order. The problem is that you are trying to create transaction from someone you have not engaged. Come on. You are trying to engage somebody that does not know you, which is not attention. I don't know if it sort of makes sense, right? So you've got to be able to first build a great brand that you're easy to identify. Yeah. But so easy to identify that even if you're not in the room, I can mention you. Yeah. I can sit down here and describe Coke. Fun facts. You know, on the streets, right? In popular hip music like hip hop, they tend to, you know, hip hop talks about women a lot, women party and all that. When they say a lady has a Coke bottle shape, think about it. So once upon a time, when we're doing the Coke bottle, the guys behind the Coke said that they were trying to create a bottle where if the lights were all off and there were different bottles there, close your eyes and do like this, you can tell it's a Coke bottle. Right? The same shape. Yeah. They are luring. You see the metaphor. That's how intentional these guys were. It's not just about the product. I mean, it tastes good. The intentionality, the red. People don't understand that psychoanalysis they talk about. Yeah. Red is the only color in the 7 colors that they taught us in the wheel of colors, right? That's by default human mind can't resist. That's why if you think about it, when they put red lights, why did they say, because I said blue for stop, why did they say red for stop? Yeah. Genetically, humans can't resist red. Yeah. Right? If a lady wants to get attraction, she wears red dress. Right? When BlackBerry was in its prime, BlackBerry was the first supplier of technology to Paris and got up all that in Paris now. Instagram, TikTok, everybody's addicted. We don't just know. Yeah. So you know, cocaine is social media too. But BlackBerry was the first thing we got addicted to. Now people forgot why. You're with your phone and there's a red beep. You know that BlackBerry red beep? It's irresistible. It's a lot of people. You're like, what's your phone? When you're in a meeting and you see that red beep, it means you have a message. Yeah. Everything pauses. Yeah. Right? So that's how powerful, and but not just speaking grammar here is what can you learn from this to apply? And then there are 3 variables you must not play with if you're going to build a great brand. One is uniqueness. You've got to be unique, even if that uniqueness is negative. But at least they know you for that thing. Look, I don't want to mention names, but every publicity is good publicity. Absolutely. Whether you are talking about Portable, right? You're talking about Donald Trump, you're talking about Bobrisky, right?
Just give us to Akintayo.
Are you negative? Right, but none of these brands are negative. I'm just saying that people might argue about whether they like or they hate them. But in the world of Rema, so right, literally like you're laughing. They're laughing. Why are you talking about that song? They're making money. Right,
the money talking about me while I'm making money, and
just have to talk about you. So first thing,
even as my haters not gonna take it easy. My haters is not gonna
go on. This was a serious show. Right, so 3 things you must sort out is uniqueness. Yeah. Second one is identity.
True.
You've got to have an identity. How you look at, 12 out of 10 out of 20 of my pictures would have me wearing dress like this, different color codes, whatever it is. If I'm not unfolding my sleeves, you've got to be known for something. Right? I was telling someone that, I mean, how do you have a picture of a Telelano wearing white? Rarely would you find a picture of a Telelano wearing white. Didn't you wear white or every single time? Almost simply, okay, wears literally black all the time. Charles Otudo wears black almost all the time, right? But Zuckerberg wears the gray shirt all the time, even if it's as detailed as what you wear.
Yeah.
Right? So John wore black turtlenecks. Your identity for your company. What is your brand identity? I go to see real estate guys with inspection, and then the board of their is falling and you feel like that. I'm like, you can't let your logo be slanting like it's dying. That's too deep. Right? What is your identity from logo to color to slogan? And then the last one is consistency. I can always say so many people are consistently inconsistent. Remember the inconsistently want to be. Have you had it blast with this session? Because when you do this, sales becomes easy.
Absolutely. I mean, guys, I hope you've learned anything or two. Remember to join our community. Right, this is where we take you to the next level, guys. So subscribe to our community. Subscribe, of course, to the social media handles and H. G&H words. It's a G&H company. G&H.
Let's call it G&H. Less is more. It could be anything. It could be anything. Tomorrow it can be G&H.
No, the 100 has to test something.
We haven't done that.
G&H consult.
From the G&H. Just go from G&H.
But you don't
ask them at the comment.
You can't get the handle
without.
And by the time they're watching this, they must have been. Of course, the guy watching.
Guys, what should they call it? G&H
consult. G&H consult.
But it's still subject to whether it's available.
And yes, subject to this. But follow us on our social media handle. And don't forget again, subscribe to our community. It's where the real magic. Love you.